If you're a regular listener to this pod, you might be wondering, will they still be doing Tech Bytes after the rebrand? Well, the answer is yes.
Yes.
So you're in luck. Or, I'm sorry, depending on how you feel about these, I don't know. If you don't like them, we do. So just deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's how to build your audience, antagonize them, right? So no, you're gonna listen to what we want you to listen to.
That's right.
And you're gonna like it.
You're gonna like it.
Great strategy.
Nice. Oh man.
So today we got some more interesting topics from all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
I'm not gonna pretend there's any good theme to these. We just randomly pick a bunch of topics that we want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I like to have I think to myself, people having conversations around whatever at a party or next family gathering. Everybody needs a topic or two to talk about.
That's a good point.
There you go. We
got some elevator topics, some awkward moment topics. When you gotta fill the space. Or maybe you're on an airplane and someone insists on talking to you. Maybe at least you can talk about something you enjoy talking about.
That's right.
Well, today we're talking about innovation, inventions, low stress jobs, reflecting on COVID 5 years later.
Yes.
Some of us might not want to do that, but we got to bring it up.
Yeah.
And some sports related content. I'm John Martin.
I'm Dean Reverman.
Welcome to BlueStar Nation. BlueStar Nation is brought to you by ELO. For a limited time, ELO is offering an instant rebate on select 70 series monitors. Known for their versatility, minimalistic design, and commercial-grade durability, 70 series monitors provide an elegant solution for businesses prioritizing quality and total cost of ownership. The rebate ranges from $31 to $47 on 22, 24, and 27-inch options for all VARs in the U.S. and Canada. All orders must ship within the promotional period, which runs through June 30th, 2025. So don't miss out on this special offer. Check out the link in the show notes for additional details and part numbers, or contact your BlueStar account manager to place an order. Again, this limited time rebate runs through June 30th, 2025. All right, Dean, let's start off with a list of the most innovative countries for 2024.
Yes.
This is another one of those fantastic visualization lists from Visual Capitalist.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
That you and I love
it.
Cool little stuff from, because, again, they just do it right. They
do.
Fun, bite-sized, easy to understand tidbits, great visuals. So this is a list where, as always, we got to do the methodology here. This is the Global Innovation Index, which is published by the World Intellectual Property Organization. Two things you probably haven't heard of at all.
Nope.
But it sounds like they're busy out there figuring out who is and isn't innovative. They rank 133 countries based on innovation capabilities and performance. So they look at things like knowledge and tech outputs, human capital and research, business sophistication, market sophistication, creative outputs, infrastructure, and institutions.
Yes.
And again, as always, we always put all the links to these topics in our show notes.
Yep.
Go check them out, and you can follow along and get a little more detail on the methodology there. But without further ado, the number one for the 14th consecutive year most innovative country is Switzerland.
What?
Switzerland is at number one.
What?
The U.S. is at number 3 after Sweden, which is at number 2. So they point out that part of why the U.S. drops a little bit lower, even though we rank the highest on market sophistication and are number 2 on business sophistication, our overall score gets dragged down by the lower rank in infrastructure, which they define infrastructure as environmental performance, information, and communication technology access. So that drags us down a little bit out of that top level there.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on this, Dean?
I'm calling BS.
You
I don't
are.
know. Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't been to Switzerland. I don't know what they're doing over there. Apparently, they're pretty innovative.
What the heck are the Swiss doing besides making watches? I don't know. I mean, there's the whole and from an engineering
we just
standpoint,
lost our whole Swiss audience. Thanks, Dean.
To our EMEA team, I apologize profusely. I mean nothing against the great people from Switzerland and Sweden. I have no problem with them. They're engineering marvels in Switzerland when it comes to watchmaking and some other things like
Once
that.
again, they're probably over there like, we don't just make watches.
No, but it is a pretty significant, part of their manufacturing prowess. Come on. How can the U.S. not be number one? I just don't. Okay, so we're getting dinged on infrastructure. Nowhere in the world is there. When you look at all the other things, knowledge and tech outputs, the amount of patents, we have to outperform just about everybody on patents and registering those and things like that. Human capital researchers per million. population? Don't we have researchers like just bump into them at the grocery store at this point? There's researchers everywhere. And anyway, I get it. Okay, I'll get off my little soapbox. But,
all right.
I'm just, American heavy when it comes to innovation.
You are. You're very American-centric.
Yes. But I was also surprised to see China so high up. They're ranked number 11, which... and I have my, unfortunately, my bias view.
Bias.
Well, that they are not on the innovation side. It's more of a replication. They're the whole society, whatever. Their whole manufacturing has been built on replicating existing technologies and stuff like that. Right. So to see them move up, a little alarming. But you've got folks like, some standard folks. I would have thought UK, Germany's high up there.
Yep.
All the Nordics are like really high. Finland, the Netherlands,
Finland and Netherlands are both in the top 10.
Sweden.
Yep.
I mean, like that part of the world, I guess, is the most innovative part of the world.
I guess so.
But then you have places like Israel. I would have thought was a little higher because I
$15.
understand that a lot of innovation comes from there. I don't know. I didn't poke around down towards the bottom.
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you poke around towards the bottom?
No, they did note that they also paid attention to the innovation overperformers, which are countries that perform above expectation relative to their level of development.
Okay, who are those?
And the top three in that regard were India, Moldova, and Vietnam.
Okay.
Said all three of them have overperformed over the past 14 years since 2011, which I know India has taken a lot of steps to get innovative. They've got into space travel. They're doing a lot of innovations when it comes to space travel. Moldova, that was one. I'm like, man, did not have a clue that was going on there. Yeah. And then Vietnam for that matter too. So this isn't one I did a massive amount of deep dive digging into the data, but I thought it was a pretty interesting list. Well, and I knew you were going to be like, what? Why isn't US number one? Sometimes I pick these based on how's Dean going to
react to this one. Yes, I understand. Well, you got me. Maybe the Vietnam one's getting up there because some manufacturing is moving off of China over to Vietnam, Philippines, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so they're seeing a little bit more of investment going into there for innovative things that need to occur.
And if you are
just guessing,
if you are curious what's at the dead last, it's Angola at number 133 at the very bottom.
Okay,
so
well, there you go.
Fortunately, there's a lot of African nations that are in the bottom. Looks like bottom 10 to 15 there. So.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. That's about all I got there. Again, go check it out. There's a little more detail. They give you a ranking based on high and middle income, which China did lead the upper middle income list there. So
Yep.
All right, so it's good stuff. All right, so Dean, since we're talking about innovation, let's talk about innovations and inventions.
There you go.
That can be part of innovation.
There you go. Innovation leads to invention. So Time came out with their best inventions of 2024, and they gave you this article. We'll link it right in the show notes.
Yep.
31 different categories,
a lot of stuff to look at
from
here.
Beauty products to AI, design to fitness. So there's a lot of categories. I love lists like this because, obviously sometimes I can see, well, yes, I recognize these innovations.
Right.
Already been talked about. Some of them are kind of like old news already type of a thing, but some of them are like, oh, I didn't know that was going on. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So a couple of them.
And most of these I still don't have in my house for some reason. I don't know why. But
well, because they're inventions, dude.
All right,
they just happen type of a thing. Okay, but.
Accelerate. Come on.
Yes. So
this is why we're falling behind, US. Yeah. We're inventing stuff, but we're not actually letting anybody use it.
A couple of them that I'll call out that seem kind of cool. I'll start off in agriculture. Fully autonomous crop dusting. This is actually almost one of those in the category. So this company has come out with an innovative feature where instead of crop dusting planes, that's old news, dude.
Right.
You just get a hive of drones.
That makes sense.
And that's what this company does. They can do 60 acres per hour of fertilization and whatever farmers do to make sure that their crop yields are high. So crop dusting, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
You don't have to chase Cary Grant around either.
There you go.
There's a North by Northwest reference for you folks out there that are cinemaphiles.
It doesn't get into the cost, but I'm assuming that this is going to be. I don't know why this would, we live in a very agricultural type of area. Right. Next time I'm driving down, I don't know, maybe I'm going to see this hive of drones.
You might.
I might be a little freaked out in the beginning, but now I see that it's
as long
just
as they
doing
don't
crop
pivot and
dusting.
start following you.
There you go. right? Or
you're driving by and it's suddenly they just all turn red and start chasing after you. Yeah.
Yes. Or remember my
infestation.
what's on my radar the other day with the drone that takes off from
right.
the car?
Yeah.
I can combat them. I got my own drone to go after them. The other one this one really strung.
I can't wait for the drone warfare on the roads of society. I can't wait. All right, go on. Sorry.
This one really struck a chord with me. Fewer winter flight delays was the headline.
That's always a good thing.
Love this one. So Alex Badai experienced his first de-icing in which a plane is sprayed with hot chemicals to remove the ice. Blah 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 blah. I cannot tell you with the amount of travel I just did this last winter, how many times I got stuck in de-icing.
Yep.
Yes, it delayed me to the point where a couple of them I missed my flights. I do not like de-icing. It's just it's a long process. They have to turn off the air conditioning. I don't know if you knew this. They shut it all down. So you're sitting in a tube for a half an hour with no circulation.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just miserable, right? And you can't move. You can't get up. You can't do anything. Okay, so
how is it that we haven't been more innovative with air travel still?
Right. So this guy and his co-founder spent years developing an alternative solution. What do they have? It's applying thin strips of a tape to the aircraft fuselage that defrosts the plane using the physics process similar to the one used by induction stoves.
Oh,
brilliant!
Nice. I'm a big fan
Give
of
these guys an A in physics. Please deploy this on any plane that I'm going to be traveling on in the winter. So I get that. Have you ever seen induction work? I mean, it's
it's awesome.
Completely
it's
cool
amazing.
services, and then boom, instantaneously, it's like whoop, warm.
I honestly, whenever I finally upgrade an oven, I would like to potentially get an induction oven.
They're so cool.
Amazing. Yeah.
So if you can put that technology, and it's just a thin layer of tape that you have to put on. Can we sign this up immediately? Like any plane that goes into that type of weather. So anyway, they tested it on some Air Canada A320s. Looks like it's doing pretty well. I hope that innovation comes through. Next one, cow flatulence. Right? So
I hear that's a problem.
This is an issue.
That's
we got
contributes to global warming.
We got inventions out there that are calming cow flatulence. So, and they're approaching it by the feed. They have a feed additive that slows down the last step of methane production process in cows in their stomachs by suppressing the enzyme activity, shown to reduce methane emissions by an average of 30% in dairy cows, 45% in beef cattle. So there you go.
For all those talking heads that were screaming about how, the liberals were going to take away their burgers because of cow flatulence.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Speaking as one, no, we were not. I like burgers too. But it is still something we need to tackle, and there we go. Here's an innovative solution.
Well, if you think that it's an issue,
still have your hamburgers.
Okay, all right, there you go. So we've got a solution to that. I love this one. This one is good. A better way to compost. So this company came out with, I do the dishes at home. I always think to myself, because I'm just using the garbage disposal and scraping the plates and putting it in.
It's not a dishwasher, is it? Because that's been around for a while, Dean.
Well, no, I do the dishes. Oh yeah, I put them in the dishwasher, but I'm still the one who's like processing before they get into the dishwasher. I'm that guy. But anyway, I'm intrigued by this. So this company has come out with, so think of it, it looks like a garbage can. It's about the size of a garbage can that would sit at the end of your island or whatever, right?
Right.
And it looks very much like this, but if you put your compostables in it, it creates overnight. It will turn it into what basically
is this Lumi or is this?
Yes, I think that's the name of the company.
There's a few. I think there's a couple of them out there, but Lumi's the one I.
No, I'm sorry. This is Mill. The name of the company is Mill. And it turns it, the next morning, your scraps that you took off look like coffee grounds and smell like dried spices. I mean, that sounds wonderful. But then you can just throw it in your yard, throw it in your flower garden, whatever. To me, that seems very applicable because I don't compost because, you throw it in the garbage can. Okay, well, now it's just going to landfill, and that's not really doing anything. I often think to myself, it's better to put it down the sink because I don't know. It's flawed logic, believe me.
I get you though. Like it's hard to figure. I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of like the recycling thing. We all know we're supposed to be doing these things to make things better.
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, They make them so difficult to do, and
that's it.
And then also you find out then at some point, like, well, actually, half the stuff you throw in the recycling doesn't get recycled anyway. So I don't know why you're wasting time. Yeah.
That's it.
But that seems a good practical use case.
Here they've kind of mitigated the difficulty, and if it looks as easy as it does on their videos, which is just scrape the stuff in, next day, open up, you've got coffee
and
grounds.
Basically, if I understand, it's got like almost like a bacterial biome inside of it.
Oh, is that how it works?
Breaking it down, I believe. I think that's what's supposedly happening internally.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's breaking it down, turning it into that compost for you, and then you can go out and sprinkle it in your garden, put it around your trees or something.
Still a little pricey. I looked it up. It's $1,000, but hey, maybe it'll get to a little bit more economical. There were two that I had my, do we really need these inventions kind of a thing? So one of them is the e-stroller. So this father, his story goes that I guess he had a kid that was, as quote, a pretty heavy baby. So the founder of this company, he was like,
boy, one of these days your kid's going to find that article and be like, thanks, Dad.
Mm-hmm. So he invented...
I've got a pretty old father.
He invented the stroller that is E in the sense that it's electric assisted stroller. Okay. Yes, he's invented something that will help you stroll your kids. The stroller, 28 miles on level ground, the battery will help you. Or if you're on rugged terrain, it can last up to 5 miles. So
is it autonomous or is it just
no.
a little assistance?
It's just battery assisted.
Okay.
So I ask you, if you really need battery assisting on your strolling, is this something we really need? I mean, come on. Be a parent, stroll your kid, push the stroller. You don't need to
Here's my alternative pitch there.
Boy.
No, because
okay.
I'm with you on, I think this guy and his positioning of like, well, I've got a large kid and
I don't want to push him uphill.
That one I'm like, all right, I'm not sure I'm buying that. However, I was out walking a few weeks ago, and I passed by a mom walking who had a double stroller with 2 kids in it. Mm-hmm. And it was a massive size stroller. It was taking up most of the sidewalk, kind of, and I stepped to the side to let her go past. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine, whatever. But I also could tell, like, this was someone she was doing it also in some way to get a bit of a workout. Which
that's right.
You've seen, like, the running
jogging strollers.
Whatever. Yeah. To me, like, okay, this maybe is for the person that needs a little bit extra, like especially like for the double stroller or something, or where they're trying to actually get a nice workout in and move at a good pace. Then I can see some value
maybe.
in this there. If it's just the
the one in the picture, I gotta
walk my kid and
stroller.
It weighs a few pounds. Yeah. No, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you there. But if it's because you're trying to move a little bit faster and get a better workout,
I gotcha.
You've got a double stroller, multiple kids.
Yeah. Maybe.
Right. Then I can see some value to that. Okay. I think the way this was pitched was poor, but I can see some benefits for the right kind of person.
And you're lobbying for like a Bluetooth tethered
That'd be cool too,
Because, out on the golf course, I don't know if you've been on a golf course lately, but instead of pushing your own golf cart clubs, you can get one of these little walk-behind carts that just tethers to you, and it just follows you around. So I'm guessing.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Okay, so here's my second one that is in the
Your
category
second WTF one
of like, do we really need this? I'm just gonna go there. Okay, so AI powered toilet seat.
I saw this one too. This is the one I was going to point out. Yeah.
So this is an innovation that monitors your bowel movements basically to contain because we all know, apparently there's a lot about our health in that.
Yes.
So there you go. So now instead of having to go through the trials and tribulations of sending stuff to doctors and labs, no, you can have this AI powered seat that will monitor your stool for you and your urine. Those
and they're
types
using
of things.
it looks like in senior living facilities currently?
Yes, 50 senior living facilities using this, and it's getting alerts and data is being sent to the care personnel on those individuals. So, okay, maybe there, I know you're going to argue, maybe you can see that use case. But I don't know. Is this replacing the watch now, the wearables? We don't need wearables anymore. We just need this AI-powered toilet seat.
Okay, I was initially out on this one because I thought when I just saw this, because some of these I just skimmed over and I saw the headline and I thought like, what is it just going to like open when you approach it or something? Because lame.
Right.
Which I know that's a thing actually too. Although again, like, I don't know, middle of the night when you're stumbling around, fine. But I will say the health aspect, I do find that appealing because there was a lot of talk about this during COVID, which I know we're going to talk about more here in a moment, about monitoring the water, monitoring sewage in order to figure out where there might be spikes potentially occurring before a lot of people were testing positive.
That's right.
I could see some benefit in something like this where you can potentially, you got enough of these things chained together, collecting enough data and realize where there might be some potential problems or able to narrow down an outbreak or a source of contamination.
So you're
or
okay
something.
with the AI-powered toilet seat in senior living
as long
centers.
as it's not like pointing a camera at me or something, I guess, while I'm going.
Are you installing one in your home so that you can get an update, up-to-the-minute updates
as
on
someone
how your family
who
is
has
doing?
had to deal with some surgery, for some intestinal issues.
Fair.
I can see some value to this.
All right. Well, for me, it was in the what the heck category.
I don't know. I don't know that it's something we need to be, putting a massive amount of investment and sticking in every home. But if my insurance would cover it or something, and I can install one for a good reason, sure.
Well, I mean, to me, I was just the creepiness of if my insurance company now is dictating that I got to install an AI-powered toilet seat so they can monitor.
Yeah. Like once they're like, hey, you're eating a little too much corn or something,
Exactly.
That's when I might be like, all right, knock it off.
You're not getting enough fiber.
Back off, like, hey, we noticed the alcohol content of your urine was a little high today. You might want to step back a little bit. Like, look, I'm having a party. Shut up.
Yeah, right?
Like,
yeah.
Okay, then yes, that's a little intrusive.
So what did you see? Anything else on this list catch your mind? Because there are a ton.
That one was one that did. The only other two, one I'll call out because it's this is the one I found so far. There's a practical use case that I have experienced and do think is actually viable. The Apple AirPods Pro 2 as a hearing aid device.
Yes. Yeah.
So my mother-in-law recently, she's had hearing aids for many years and has had some frustrations with them and getting the ones that could be paired with her phone or whatnot. Yep. So my wife and I at one point saw Apple did a big commercial run during probably major sporting events, basically highlighting the fact that their AirPods Pro were now not officially medically certified, but that they had done the research and the work to use them for potential hearing aid use. And we both were like, first of all, kudos to Apple because you could really reinvent the hearing aid market, which is absurdly expensive.
Oh yeah.
And
very much so.
AirPods Pro, can cost you about, I think, $200, something like that or whatever for a new pair.
Sub 200 at this point.
I think it is. I think you're right. And, whereas your typical hearing aids can be thousands plus easily. So that alone could upend this whole market. But more importantly, we got some for her, and I went over and helped her get them and set up and do the little hearing test on her phone, and they work.
Really?
She is legitimately having, she's basically getting out of what she got out of her hearing aids. But
that's
again,
great.
She's getting the same thing.
For a fraction of the price.
For a fraction of the price. They are working for her. Plus, you have also the built-in, the part of the Apple ecosystem where, she can pair it up for music and take phone calls and all the little, the bells and whistles that come with AirPods. I love my AirPods. I love using them for a lot of stuff. But it has genuinely worked for her, and it was a noticeable difference, that we are able to sit there and talk to her, and she can actually hear what's going on pretty regularly, even better, in some ways, even a little bit better than her hearing aids were doing for her.
That's great. I think they're miraculous because I put them in, and it's it's such a great job of you can obviously do noise canceling, or you can use the mode where it prioritizes speech. So it's killing all the environmental noise except for speech. It's amazing.
They really are.
As an audiophile, it just amazes me that they can do that. Aesthetically, I agree with everything that you just said. I wonder if Apple goes down a road of making it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, because the one thing that I guess that hearing aids of today, the advantage is that they're hidden.
In ear typically,
but you can barely see them unless you see the little wire. I mean, I think they focused on mitigating the scene part of it. You don't really see it. Whereas, with the AirPod, I mean, you definitely see them.
Although at the same time, I feel like it's not uncommon to see people walking around with AirPods.
No, not at all.
I mean, I wear mine quite a bit, and I know younger generations will often have one in one ear just to be listening to something, but still can, engage and vocalize and stuff. So I don't think it's terribly unheard of to see it out there. But yes, to your point,
there you go.
I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with a little bit more of a subtle version for for those that are using it most explicitly for the hearing help.
And I hope they don't charge an arm and leg.
I know,
because
exactly.
your point is dead on. Sub 200 for that kind of technology.
Again,
game changer.
Yep. So I will say I can attest to, if you have someone in your life or you yourself are struggling with hearing loss, try them out. You might be surprised by what you actually get out of them. And they have, again, I've been using mine for a long time now. They have good battery life. You can go quite a chunk of the day, and that's even if just like for me, like when I'm playing podcasts or music on them or something, whatever, you can get several hours before you need to recharge. But for this case, where it's more or less just kind of passively being used, it's almost a whole day you can get out of them before you need to recharge them for the if you're using them just for the hearing aspect.
Yep. You found another one on there?
The one other one I thought was interesting that as we were just skimming through before getting on was the Yonder pouch.
Oh, so you've not heard of this?
I had not heard of this. No. So, and in a world where we're constantly talking about like people like putting their phones aside, and as I'm looking over at our producer Marco staring at his phone while we're podcasting, as he does, so he doesn't have to listen to us drone on. But where you want people to disconnect, or also you had this whole movement where like you're starting to get to schools that are potentially wanting to get the phones put away during class time, or potentially even banning them outright from being used in school or in the classroom. This is an effective way to do that, and also but still give people the power to have their phones, and maybe also take some temptation away from them. And they mentioned like movie theaters. So the idea behind this pouch is it is a simple little pouch, very simple, that is just an opaque pouch. You drop your device into it, and then it's got a little locking feature that you tap to a little device that basically locks it, and then you take it wherever you need to go, whether it's in the classroom, in the movie theater. You are not able to open and access your device, but you still get to hold it on you. And when you're done, or if you need to go use your device, you just step out, go to wherever you can unlock it, and tap the thing to unlock it, pop your device back out, and then you're good to go again. Yeah. No worries about it. You don't have to hand your device over to somebody. You don't have to worry about it getting lost or stolen or anything. You get to maintain it, but you also then get locked out of it in a way that actually hopefully keeps you focused and keeps you from using it places you shouldn't be using it.
I think a lot of schools are starting to use this. The Cincinnati public schools have used this, are starting to use this. Yeah, the little pouch thing. A pretty brilliant technology. Yeah. I mean,
it's simplistic, but
very simplistic.
But it's smart, and and again, I mean, we all could benefit from less time on our devices. We all know this. We know they're not good for us. It is hard to resist them. They are designed to make you pick them up as much as possible. I get those screen time alerts every single week that tell me how much time I spent on my phone, and I'm always a little bummed. Like, man, I spent 2 hours a day on my phone. Right. I should be doing better than that. This is a nice way maybe to potentially do that.
There you go.
Where it's unfortunate we have to like make ourselves lock ourselves out to do it, but if it's what works, then it's what works.
So it was a good list.
It was.
Look, I stayed away from batteries.
You did,
because
actually.
There were some batteries on here, so I stayed away from that. But anyway, you have your next story.
So
relating
next up here,
to low stress.
Let's talk about jobs here, because everyone's always looking for like the perfect job, but everybody wants a nice, great job that's not stressful, doesn't wear them out, doesn't run them ragged, and just make them dread every day when they got to go to work and waiting for the weekend, and then the weekend's too short. And how much PTO do I have? All that familiar lament. Well, but we also want to get paid. Like, because a lot of times you can find jobs like that, but a lot of them don't really pay you that much.
Okay, fair enough.
Like you can, something may not be stressful, but you're also like, well, you're not really making as much money as you'd like. Well, Go banking rates, odd site to
Go banking rates.
Maybe that's an ad. This is on NASDAQ.
Oh, NASDAQ.com.
My bad. I was looking at Go banking rates because up there at the top, and I guess that's actually an ad for some reason. Man, way to fool me there. Anyway, this is NASDAQ.com. Oh, no, it says it's written by Cynthia Meeson for Go banking rates. I don't know. I don't look that hard into these when I pick these sometimes. All right. They came up with 15 jobs to let you earn more and stress less for 2025. So let's walk through some of these here. Some of the jobs you can take that pay well, but are also low stress, according to them. Water resource specialist.
What?
Only requires a bachelor's degree, and the median annual salary is $157,000.
It's very depressing.
Yeah, Marco is like, all right. Marco just walked out of the room. Apparently he signed up. I guess
can you read the next
podcast or something?
Can you read the next stat, which is
astronomer?
No. I'm sorry. I'm going back to water resource specialist, which, by the way, didn't know existed. $160K a year. Yeah.
Yes.
Look at the number.
100,000 jobs.
What? There's 100,000 water resource specialists.
Well, I mean, I guess you probably need them in most counties or states.
I'm signing up. I mean, this is maybe back to where we just were during COVID, and you had to monitor the water.
There you go. Yeah,
maybe it was a little bit more stressful then, but this has got to be a pretty low stress job. It doesn't give a lot of
details on like what these jobs entail for the ones that I weren't aware of what they were. So I don't know what that kind of job actually entails. But again, it's considered low stress, great pay. It's got an estimated 8% growth. over the next almost 9 years or so. I mean, so man,
what? Okay,
yeah, we might all just be water resource specialists.
I'm Googling it. I'm going to Indeed.com for waters. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Next up on the list is an astronomer. That's $150K annual salary. But you are required to get a doctoral professional degree for that. Yeah. And also, I think you gotta
low
enjoy
stress.
staring at the
I
stars.
get the low stress. I mean, how stressful is it looking up into the heavens? I mean, come on.
Maybe if you can be, there's a great TikTok that I follow. Her name is Astro Alexandra.
Okay.
And her whole thing is she just talks about awesome space phenomena. She's a fantastic watch. Listen to her stuff, whatever. If I could get a gig like that where it's like I could combine this fun, like talking hosting aspect with also some astronomical stuff, sure,
that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Actuary at $120,000. That's not a job I would consider terribly exciting, but I guess it's low stress. Environmental economist, $115K. These are like moving down the pay ranks.
But you need a master's for that.
You
But go
need
ahead.
Masters. You've got mathematicians, also need a master's degree. Computer systems analyst. That's a bachelor's degree, but still
is that low stress?
Six-figure
Sometimes
job.
that feels like that can be a little bit on the higher stress. But okay, I'll believe them that it's a low stress job.
I guess that would depend on your. Like, I don't know, like where you're positioned, I guess, or who you're doing that kind of a job for.
Yeah.
Fuel cell engineer. Interesting one.
But there's 291,000 of those jobs.
And I would imagine that it's got an 11% growth rate, which makes sense as, more and more people are going, to electric vehicles. And
yes.
Okay,
that's fair.
A battery economy is continuing to grow.
Fair enough.
Remote sensing scientist and technologist. Not exactly sure what that is, but okay.
All right.
Geographers.
Yeah.
Transportation. Now we start getting into some salaries that I'm like, okay, these aren't really high paying.
Yeah.
Like rail car repairer.
Right.
61,000 median annual salary.
Yeah. But that's more realistic salary if you ask me.
It is.
There
it's
we
also
go.
only requires high school diploma or equivalent.
Yeah.
And that is a good salary.
But it's got to be low stress.
I mean, it is low stress.
You're just fixing rail cars, right? They're not even moving.
Here's one I find interesting though: taper/drywall finisher.
Sure.
I mean, granted, I've never tried to do this myself. It doesn't seem like something I would consider low stress, but maybe it's just because I'm not into that kind of job necessarily.
It's pretty
that
chill.
kind of work I get, but I guess it's.
I would imagine.
Pretty. I mean,
unless you're on a crew that's like building houses and they got to get done right now, kind of a thing.
Well,
it's like,
I guess that's the other thing too.
Painters,
is like,
drywallers.
Depending on where you are, like if there's a population explosion and new homes being built, you're not going to run out of work anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where I feel like you don't have to you do the work behind the scenes kind of just for the builder and not really have to worry about
interfacing with anybody.
or anything.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I can see it.
Low stress.
At the bottom of the list here, craft artist. Okay, yeah, sure. I guess that's low stress if you enjoy making crafts.
Well, how are there 54,000 of those jobs in America? But anyway,
I don't know, because that seems like a lot of a very self-starter type of job there. All right. So if I get it, sometimes maybe the reseller game, the technology game can be a little stressful. Maybe you're tired of the hustle and you just want to get away from it all. Go to our show notes, check out this link, find maybe a job that can pay you well.
I thought you were going to
stress you out as much.
I thought you were going to hover on tire builder. Which is second from the bottom there.
Again, I don't quite know what that means, but
I think you're retreading tires. It's a pretty low stress kind of job.
I guess,
but
it also, I think some of these also demand, like if you're someone that doesn't mind repetitive tasks, that doesn't need anything challenging or spicy in your job. Which again, I see some appeal to that. To me, that would be one of those things. Like if I'm going to do a job like that, as long as I can listen to stuff, as long as I'm able to stick some ear pods in and listen to podcasts, listen to music, if I can keep myself entered, because that is how I get through menial tasks in my life right now. If I could do that at a job like this, fine. Maybe I'd be interested in it. So.
Oh man!
So there you go. There's some low stress jobs for you. What do we got? Let's
take a look at the COVID
let's address
pandemic.
the 5-year elephant in the room and talk about COVID.
Yes, and we're going to try to do this without staying politically unbiased on any of this, which is almost impossible because. But in all seriousness, it was a fascinating Pew Research report. That
as always, an incredibly in-depth one. They're
incredibly
really
in-depth. It just caught my eye because I mean, there was all the buzz around. Hey, it's been 5 years. Which, first off, I can't believe it's been 5 years. It's like what?
Time is a flat circle.
It has been 5 years. So the most significant pandemic of our lifetime arrived in the United States. Was unexpected. 3 major social trends: a growing divide between partisans of the left and the right. Number 2, decreasing trust in many institutions. And then finally, a massive splintering of information environment. So these are all things that I guess as a society we've been talking about for the last 5 years, but it is interesting to see it all quantified.
These were all things I feel like were already happening, but COVID accelerated them.
Oh, kind of like we talk about in technology. Well, that was on the whiteboard, you know, as a could be kind of a thing.
I mean, I think there was already a growing political divide.
Okay.
There was already a lot of distrust in institutions.
You think?
There was already a splintering of information because social media was already splintering information as it is. And I think this just brought out the worst of all three
exacerbated
of those things,
all of it. There you go.
And just turned it into a nightmare we're still trying to recover from.
There you go. So just some of the headlines I would pull out. COVID-19, I'm just going to read from some of this. COVID-19 itself didn't cause any of this, but the forces that fueled the country. So looking back at it, nearly 3/4 of U.S. adults, 72%, say the pandemic did more to drive the country apart than bring it together, which is sad. To a certain degree. 3/4 of Americans say the COVID-19 pandemic took some sort of toll on their own lives. So that's a lot, 3/4. But when you dive into that, it amazingly, it's the younger generation that had more of a toll on their life than the older generations, which to me was a little counterintuitive because when you look at the death rates, it was mostly the older population, not the younger population. So that's just a fascinating. And again, these are all things. I'm not saying anything that we all haven't read in the news or haven't commented on before, but to me, that's still one of those that pops out. It's like, for the younger generation, COVID-19 was one hell of a time. It had a dramatic effect, and
that we're still dealing with the repercussions from.
100%, 3/4 of Americans still say that it had that. However, most Americans have moved on. So among U.S. adults overall, 1 in 5, 20% now say the coronavirus is a major threat. So only 21%, I'm sorry. Whereas 56% think it's no longer something we really need to worry about much. So again, 56% of most Americans, I guess, have moved on from the severity that COVID. And that's even surprising to think about where we were 5 years ago is like, everybody was at death's door if this thing kept going. Now it's like, okay. And then, the article does go into the whole Republicans and Democrats, and it is fascinating to look at. 6 in 10 Republicans think that, that now COVID's no worse than a cold, whereas if you lean Democrat, it's the exact opposite. It's just fascinating to see the dichotomy that is created in a couple of those. I've got a couple other things that I'm going to call out here, but did you have any initial commentary on this?
I think, looking at a lot of this, the big thing that stood out to me was this whole idea of hindsight being 2020.
Yep.
Which is, it's easy 5 years after the fact to have a stake a claim of we did all this wrong and we should have been better at this and we should have done that differently. And
but when you're in the moment.
At the time, I mean, the whole world was trying to figure out how to deal with this thing.
That's right.
And with a primary goal of let's have as few people as possible die and as few people as possible get very sick and as few major consequences come out as possible. And I think on that level, there's only so much you can do, and there's things you're going to mess up. There's things you're going to get wrong. There's things you're going to do right. And I think it's easy to look back sometimes and make this big judgment call of we messed up all that. We shouldn't have wasted our time. And the problem with that is I worry that I hope that we never experience anything like this again in our lifetime.
That'd be nice.
But if we do, is it going to be even much worse because you're going to have so many people that have it embedded in their heads well, now, because I think that what we did before was pointless, I'm even less inclined to do anything now and refuse to even try to make this,
could be
to take any kind of a let's all work together approach on this.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. I think it's a fascinating read to look at the analytics behind it, because they dive into just about every aspect of it. They go into the institutions and how, again, depending on your spectrum, how you either lost institutional faith or maybe have garnered some. It is fascinating. Just two things that I wanted to call out that are kind of maybe of interest to me is around the work from home and how that has changed. And then, interestingly enough, participating in religious services. So let me go to the work from home. Majority of workers still whose jobs were allowing telecommuting continue to work from home at least some of the time. So pre-pandemic, only 14% of folks could work from home. So at the height of the pandemic, 55% were at home all the time, 27% most or some of the time. So during the height of the pandemic, basically 90% of people that could work from home were working from home. Fascinating. So zip forward to last year, that's still in the 75% range. So 32% all the time, 43% most or some of the time are still working from home. So that seems to have stuck a little bit, and it seems to be plateauing from what I can see in the data.
Right. It's one of those things. Seems like it's become hard to claw back in any way. I know there's some businesses that want to and have tried to, but I guess the big part of it is that we did it, and for the most part, we didn't lose anything really doing. I mean, you can have your ideas about like, all right, well, maybe you lose a little bit of camaraderie and teamwork and stuff like that. But I think from a sheer getting the work done perspective, for the most part, nothing really changed for a lot of businesses. And I think that's why a lot of them realize like, well, this is something we can still continue to offer.
Yes,
but I know that may change over time, but
I also think it was a societal change, right? The quality of life is something that's hard to combat at this point. Meaning, I think people enjoyed a better quality of life if they have more flexibility in what they can do, and that above anything else in my mind is really kind of having that anti-magnetic push against the desire.
And especially
the
longer you go, the farther you go with giving people this option.
Well, because
the harder
it
it's going to be to convince
someone
that like they can, or to tell someone, hey, you got to make a change and disrupt and upend your entire life to do it.
And then the other thing that I'll pull out was around the religious services. This was fascinating. Since the early days of COVID-19 pandemic, stable shares of Americans have participated in religious services either in person or virtually. So when you look at the statistics, July of 2020, only 13% of folks were attending religious services in person. If you look at that now, or back in October of 2024, it's all the way up to 32%. So that's like a 3x change on that. I thought that was fascinating. I don't have a commentary around it. I just thought it was fascinating that so many more people now are participating. And if you look at the virtual and or in person, it's actually up to about 43% of folks right now. Look, again, I don't want a commentary on religion and stuff like that. I just thought that was very interesting.
I thought I wondered about that because I saw that too, and I wondered if because I don't know if they went too far. I dig super deep into all this.
Oh, okay.
To see some of the other questions where like, did they ask any questions about like other potential gathering type stuff that people were doing maybe more of or differently? Because I'm curious if it was just kind of a response to the fact that people were isolated for so long. You were either a lot of folks were potentially by themselves. A lot of folks were just maybe,
So they participated more in group activities?
Well, maybe it was just that like post-pandemic, the desire to re-engage and the feeling of I want to go out and appreciate being around people again, or maybe being part of a society, and having more connection and having more time spent with other people. And that drove them back into religion and maybe other places where getting back together and being around larger groups of people and having that kind of community aspect, which I think is a great thing and something that we've known as a larger problem before COVID again. With how social media,
I think all that is a truism because I mean look like the concept of a food hall. It right now is a very hot thing. We've got a couple of them that have popped up here around Cincinnati. You go to those things in the weekend, they're packed. Yeah. And I think and they've got like pickleball courts next to them and dog parks next to them. And it's like the whole idea is just bringing people back together. And then they've got like little stage areas, right? I mean, they're popping up everywhere. But to your point, maybe that is a manifestation of people just wanting to be together.
I mean, I think as I think people tend to be social creatures by nature. 100%. Like we're social animals in nature. So I think after spending a couple years, at least a year and a half, where you were very very limited in who you could be around and spend time with and see, and the things you could do on a social aspect. That once that was opened back up again, I think maybe it probably inspired people to I'm curious if maybe some of those numbers would kind of regress a little bit maybe as we go on a little further.
Could be.
Or if maybe, again, this is just something that taught folks like, hey, I value being able to get out there and spend time with people. And
that's fair.
I know what it's like not to, so I'm not not as inclined to go back anymore. So.
Anything else that called out? I think it's a fascinating article. It is. It's a Pew Research, so it's really, really in depth.
Yeah, they always do great
drill
stuff.
Into other areas.
I think the only other thing, there's obviously been a lot of discussion around, what happened with kids during that time, and you referenced it too, that younger folks suffered, and like the schooling thing was one of those issues where I feel like there was a no-win scenario with the school thing. Like it was, you were in a situation where it was like, hey, we did irreparable damage to children by basically pulling them out of school and trying to do the remote schooling for a while there.
Yep.
I didn't have to experience that too much. Like at the time, my son was in daycare. Although even that was still its own disruptive force because the daycare shut down for a few months, and we had to bring him home and got him addicted to television because the wife and I still had to work. Right. I feel like that still did change some things, even at that level. But after just a couple times experiencing what the remote learning thing is like now, I can fully appreciate and understand how parents had to deal with how problematic and difficult that was to manage. Again, I don't know if there was a better solution because in the interest of public health, I know the kids were not as at risk, but those kids were also going home potentially to elderly parents and immunocompromised folks. So I get it from we got to do what we can, but I think it's unfortunate that we found ourselves in a situation that was damaging to kids, where now years later we're finding that kids who went through that are effectively operating at potentially a grade level lower than where they were before, and not scoring as well. So it's one of those things. I don't know if next time out we figure out a better way to do remote learning. It's more engaging or what?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. But I do recall that what was unique about this particular pandemic is that usually they attack younger generations harder than older generations. And that was kind of the inverse with this one, right? I think a lot of people's expectations, and this is my bro science, I guess, is that, okay, this is going to be harder on the younger generation, so we really need to monitor. At least early on, I can remember that and it was a truism, because usually when something, in a novel virus or something, it's the young, right, that get hit hard with it, type of thing, because their bodies just aren't immune. They haven't been around. And exposed to all this stuff that if you're 50 years old that you've been through. Kind of. So anyway, really fascinating kind of stuff. So
I'll be interested. Honestly, I'll be interested to see where we are another 5 years from now. With this. Like I feel like this is something where there's going to be a lot of like I want to know what the ramifications of long COVID are. I'm very curious to find out how that's going to impact people as we go on. Like, is that going to lead to potential increases in diseases down the road? What does that do to the lifespan for those folks? I don't know. You know. So there's more research to be done, and hopefully it's a little more positive.
Yeah. So we got shifting gears over to stadiums.
Yes, so
I like this.
Since we do want to get back out and hang around some folks, and a stadium's a great place to go and hang out and spend some time with folks and enjoy your favorite sporting event. So this was actually something that was sent over to me by Cole Heckman. He is one of our BDMs.
Oh, Cole, yeah.
And he sent this article to me and said, hey, I think this is something cool you guys could talk about on the show. So thanks, Cole. We very much appreciate that. And it is a topic that's pretty cool. And I think what's relevant about this, too, is lately we have had a lot of folks on the show in the last 6 months or so that have talked about technologies that have found their niche or starting point in stadiums and in sporting or in large event spaces. I think back to back when we had wait time on.
Sure. Yep.
I think about we had the RFID folks back, I think during the holidays or just before the holidays, that were talking about RFID checkout, and a lot of the team stores.
One of the team stores. That's absolutely the RFID basket.
Yeah. Stuff around digital signage. Like there's all this fascinating. We just had Truffle on. And recently, and they were talking about the whole solutions of the remote ordering and being able to pick them up. When you see that in a lot of stadiums. So I think it's interesting that stadiums are such a hotbed of technology and innovation. So to that point, there's a list here from Sports Render of the 10 most technologically advanced stadiums in the world. I'm going to run through, first of all, let's run through a few of the ones that were just in the U.S. here, since, we like the U.S. centric.
And by the way, I'm a little depressed already. I've never been in any of these. Have you?
Let me check. I thought I had one, but maybe not.
Wait, I take that back. I've been in number 5. Okay. I take it back.
So number 9 is MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, U.S. East Rutherford. That's where the Giants and the Jets both play, right? Yeah. Fairly new stadium. Levi's Stadium, Santa Clara. That's where the Niners play. You've got moving up the list, Mercedes-Benz.
There I've
Atlanta.
been.
You've
I've been there.
Yep.
Yep.
That looks like an amazing looking stadium.
Yes.
It's a cool looking place.
Yes.
And then I'll finish out the top 5 here. Number 4 is the Santiago Bernabeu in Madrid, Spain.
That looks nice.
SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. Of course, a big soccer stadium would be a big one. And at number 1, no, I have not been to these. Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It's where the Texans are playing at now, right?
No. The Raiders. the
Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders, yes.
My bad, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, there you go. That's your top stadiums there.
Well, here's my commentary. To me, the SoFi Stadium is the most unique looking one.
Very much so. It's not a conventional.
No, I cannot wait to go to.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to go to this stadium because I hear it's awesome. It's open air. It's just it is a feat of engineering. It's everything that the buildup is supposed to be. And the article references a couple key features around the infinity screen.
That's so
there
cool.
You go.
A double-sided loop screen that stretches around the entire thing. That is so cool.
That is so cool. But if you look at number 2, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it looks like a stadium, dude. I mean,
it does.
I'm not trying to bash it or anything like that. I'm sure it has some cool technology, but if you look at it from the aerial shot, which you'll see in this article, it looks like a stadium.
Ironically, what's cool about it is it's a dual system field, one for football, one for football as in the
soccer,
what everyone else but the U.S. calls football, soccer, and one for the NFL. And that's a big reason for that is because the NFL has been trying to do a lot more overseas games, and they've been doing a lot of stuff in London, and this is one of the stadiums that they use when they're over there.
Yep.
So they've actually set it up so that it could be easily converted between the two.
Yep.
These are fascinating. Like I said, it's amazing to me, this kind of innovation. Like, I remember when Great American Ballpark opened. That's been our most recent. Well, I guess we've had the FC Cincinnati Stadium. That has been a more recent one. But a lot of the stuff that seemed like innovative at the time now is already starting to feel old school compared to a lot of these places. So I do want to check some of these out. I'm a big fan of seeing what an interesting stadium and what they have to offer.
And what I like about where a lot of these are going now, I have been to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and so a lot of these are domes that can be then converted to open air. Yeah. And the Mercedes-Benz,
which is like a flower, that one's so neat.
Flipping cool. It is. I mean, it's when it's closed, and you look up, it's awe-inspiring, and then just the fact that it can open and then the way that it does, really,
and they're
cool.
pretty fast about it now too.
Yes.
I remember for a long time back in the day, like the retractable roof stadiums.
Oh, we need a day.
Yeah, it was like it was one of those things where like if they decided to open or close it during a game, like it was basically the entire game that it was taken before it did either one. Or they had to like start in the morning in order to have it open by game time or something. Yeah, now it's just a matter of minutes that they're able to do. Which I mean, I get like you're talking about a pretty heavy, massive machinery operation, and it's impressive that they've shortened the time up on these as it is. So.
But a lot of these stadiums are starting to get into technologies like some things that are kind of off paper or at least off the headlines, like water collection and recycling technologies and some of those types of things. But one of them has like traffic management technology.
I saw that for Allegiant.
Love that.
There,
yeah, going back to your wait time, right?
Yep, exactly.
These are the types of technologies that are going to be utilized in these massive stadiums. I mean, these things hold 100,000 people. It's crazy.
Look, all I'm saying is we need some Reds and Bengals championships here in Cincinnati so that we can get enough revenue to build some new stadiums.
Fair enough.
And try to get some of these cool new features.
That would be kind of cool. No,
and
we're just going to keep polishing.
I will say kudos to the Raiders for having the most innovative stadium now because I've been to Oakland Coliseum.
Oh, you have?
The former Oakland Coliseum, now that it's finally done with and the A's have moved out of there too. I don't think I've been to a lot of stadiums around
I heard it was
US.
pretty bad.
It is hands down the worst one I've ever been to. And mind you, I last went there almost 20 years ago. Probably.
Oh, and it was bad then.
It was maybe like 15 years ago. No, it was probably close to 20 years ago. It was back in my old job. We had a sales meeting out in the San Francisco area, and one of the nights they took our team out to see an A's game. They were playing the White Sox, and I remember. Again, at the time, Great America was fairly new, but I'd also been more than familiar with Riverfront Stadium, the old Riverfront Stadium, Synergy Field, whatever. And, that place had gotten pretty old and pretty outdated.
Man,
This place, though, man, you just sit there and you looked around and I was like, this place is dumb. If you remember, they were using it both for the Raiders and for the
Athletics.
For the A's. And if you recall, during if you'd see a game being played there by the Raiders during football season, you could still see all the dirt from. They did nothing to change things up. They just moved some seats around a little bit to tighten up the field a little bit.
Classic.
But you still had players out there potentially getting tackled on dirt, on infield dirt,
absolutely,
from a baseball stadium. Yeah. I'm amazed that
classic.
place stayed as long as it did, and I can't say that I blame those teams for getting out of there when Oakland never bothered to invest in them.
Yeah. Well, staying with sports, my last one are the 100 best sports moments article that came across my desk. Now, admittedly, I thought this was the 100 best sports of all time, so I had some internal complaints about that because I felt like there were some moments that I remember that clearly were not even recognized.
Yeah, you said this to me. You're like, where are all the Jordan moments?
Yeah,
and I was like, Jordan wasn't really even playing by the early 2000s. Like maybe a couple years.
Well, I should have read the subhead. Yes, I am that guy that doesn't read the subhead. Of the last quarter century. Okay, so these are the 100 best sports moments of the last quarter century. We won't go through all of them because there's 100 of them. But what I noticed out of the top 20, I recognized all of them but 6. And the 6 that I don't recognize would be from the NBA. So that's a commentary on me. I just don't watch the NBA anymore.
It would be the same problem for me. It might be something where I was aware of these, but certainly did not experience it because I just don't watch. Like I'll watch college ball during March Madness, like we're in right now, but I don't typically check out the NBA.
And back to where the comment that you called out from me when I said there's no Jordan. Right. The last time I watched the NBA was when Jordan was around.
Yeah, I have a feeling if you did this list, like add an extra 10 years on top of it, like most of the top 10 would be
Jordan.
Would be Jordan and the Bulls, probably. Let's be honest.
So if you look at the list, though, there's a lot of great sports moments. A lot of them I recognize. I'm going to start down in the 20s. Aaron Boone with his walk-off versus the Red Sox.
Yes, that was a classic.
The 13 seconds of what's his name? Patrick Mahomes, driving to win the game in the playoffs. You've got Usain Bolt and his famous run that he did. Tiger Woods at the Masters gets a recognition here. Yeah. That one I recognize. Some of the ones I don't recognize the Wimbledon one either. Or any of the buzzer beaters from the NFL or from the NBA, but kind of diving into the top 10. I clearly remember number 10, Malcolm Butler, who picks off Russell Wilson. That was like the Super Bowl pickoff of all Super Bowl pickoffs when that happened, because clearly, the Patriots were up against their backs were up against the wall, and then boom.
Which just a little further down the list was the game where they came back from down 28-3 against the Falcons to win.
That's right.
I know, if you weren't a Patriots fan, most of us hated the Patriots during that time, but you got to give them credit.
You got to give them credit. Yeah,
they knew how to win games.
Well, they were dominant in the last. When you think about the last 25 years, they were dominant. The Cubs win. The Cubs won the World Series. Well, I'm just saying, as a moment.
It was a historical moment.
Yep. And then recently, when Messi beat Mbappe over at the World Cup Finals, I did watch that. That was fascinating. Of course, again, Tiger Woods over at the Masters,
at 43 winning it. Yeah,
I don't know how that guy does it. He's robotic. He's had more injuries than I don't know what to do, and he's still doing it.
I know most players in most sports have the kind of injury record he's had would have been retired 10 years ago.
Yep.
And he's still. I don't know if he knows how to live any other way. Honestly, I guess,
Yeah. Number 5 is the kick six. This is when Auburn ran back the field goal. I remember watching that game. That was just one of the most thrilling moments. It was incredible to win the game. Michael Phelps is number 4 with the greatest relay ever.
What an insane! Not even. I don't know if we can call Michael Phelps human.
No.
He's beyond human. He's the next evolution.
So fun to watch.
If there is mutants, like the X-Men style mutants in this world, Michael Phelps is as close as we are to it at this point, I think.
Hard agree on that one. Hard agree. I don't think we'll ever see anybody like that. I don't think so dominant there. Number 3 was the Red Sox coming back from 3 versus the Yankees.
The bloody sock games.
Absolutely. The bloody sock games. I remember them very, very well.
That was an amazing World Series. That
was a great World Series.
Especially, again, because
it had a little controversy.
Before the Patriots, the Yankees were the team that everyone hated for their dominance.
And still do, some of us, but anyway.
And then their greatest rival comes back and beats them to go on to the World Series and win their first World Series in 86 years.
Everybody was a Red Sox fan.
Yeah, you could not be. Yeah.
You could not be. Number 2, which was the block. I don't remember it. This is when what's his name?
LeBron.
Thank you. Blocks the shot. I don't remember that. And then number 1 was the helmet catch. This is when Eli Manning sent it over.
The only time the Patriots were on the downside of one of these.
But everybody remembers that catch was unbelievable. He kept it on his helmet. What a great catch.
Here's the thing. This is what makes, I think, the whole Patriots dynasty thing funny, too, because we all were so annoyed with the Patriots winning for so long and just kept winning. And every time you thought they had a chance of finally losing, they win. And then the year when they could have set the perfect season.
Yes, I remember that.
They had a perfect regular season, blew through the playoffs, and could have had since the Dolphins, the 85 Dolphins, whatever it was?
Yes.
And for more games even played, could have had the absolute wire-to-wire perfect season. And if you were rooting for that, you still got disappointed by the Patriots because they managed to lose to Eli Manning and the
Giants. Good times.
On a helmet catch of all things.
Helmet catch.
Immaculate helmet catch. Yeah.
Yes.
So, man.
Anyway, so I thought that was a pretty good argument. Good stuff.
I got nothing to add to that. There's some good moments. And I
guess locally, the Tom Brenneman apology did make the top 100. If
you're not familiar with this story, go check it out. And more than anything, just find the full video of his apology.
Yeah.
Of him apologizing for making a slur on air.
Yeah.
And then next inning or a couple of innings later, apologizing and in the middle of his apology, calling a home run. Which has become an absolute meme on the internet. There's a better chance you might have seen the meme than have actually seen that video.
Because we rewatched it prior to this. And it's just, he doesn't drop a beat. It's just, I apologize. And there's a home run.
Yeah. One of those few things, like a lot of this stuff, happens on like a national level where everyone's potentially watching. But this is one that was very much a local incident that turned into something so much bigger and is still meme-worthy to this day.
There you have it.
All right. That
stuff.
is our Tech Bytes for this week. As always, we find plenty of stuff to ramble about. If you
we
have
do.
ideas, send them over to us. We'd love to hear what
we can riff on anything.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you want us to riff about and talk about on the show. So please send those ideas in to us. Like the podcast, subscribe, leave some reviews. Check out BlueStar Nation, the website. That's nation.bluestarinc.com. I get confused with their email.
Yes.
And if you do have ideas for us, drop us a message, leave a review for us, send us an email, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, Dean, let's wrap up.
Yes.
Because we're not done talking about random topics. Let's talk about what's on our radar. So what's on your radar this week? What else do you want to riff about?
What is the average time you think employees are clocking out, sir? At the end of the day, what's the average?
The time of day?
The time of day that people are clocking out.
5:10. I don't know.
American workers are clocking out earlier is the headline of the article. The average American workday now concludes at 4:39.
Okay.
A notable 42 minutes earlier than it did just 2 years ago when the time hovered around 5:21. You would have been correct 2 years ago. You were a little bit closer.
Okay.
But according to this research, the behavior, and they studied 200,000 employees across 777 companies. So I would say that's a pretty good sample size, to use. And what they found is, again, the average time that people are clocking, and I hate to say this as a manager and whatever of employees myself, but yeah, it is shrunk to people are clocking out on average around 4:30 basically.
But we're not necessarily saying they aren't working there full time. Just
no. Well, that's where I was going to go.
Getting out when they're supposed to.
If you're an employer, don't worry. You're still getting more than your 8 hours of productivity because
that's good.
When do you think people are actually averaging clocking in?
Probably like it's somewhere in like the 8 o'clock range, maybe.
Somewhere in the that's it, 7:49.
Okay.
So people are the productivity is still 8 hours and 41 minutes.
Well, and there, we'll go back to quickly to our, our work from home thing and where that sits or whatever. You want to talk about one of the benefits of work from home? When you don't have to stick a commute at the beginning and end of someone's workday, they're much more inclined to start a little earlier and potentially work a little later when they don't have to get into a car and fight with traffic.
That's right.
So you can potentially still get a good, long, productive day out of somebody and even more work. I know I experience that sometimes. It's like days where I'm like, hey, man, I don't have to get in my car and go anywhere. Yeah. So I'm cool with working for another half hour and getting something done today and not having
my commute's worse than yours. Yeah. So
that's true.
Absolutely.
Like at least like mine can be about half an hour, but it's at least in, it's not as traffic laden and problematic as yours probably is on a regular basis.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, that was on my radar.
Okay,
I thought you'd enjoy that one. What's on yours?
All right, I'll give a quick one, which will appeal to you as a music file. You and I both here. So apparently, according to new Concordia research, music makes us move even when we don't like it.
Don't like the music?
Well, either don't like music at all or don't like a particular type of music as well.
I 100% agree with that article.
I feel like it's one of those things like when you hear it, you go like, well, yeah, that actually does make complete sense. Now, again, I don't understand the concept of people who don't like music, but they did do this study with people with what's called music anhedonia, which means someone that does not derive any kind of pleasure from music.
Oh, I didn't know they existed.
I didn't either. I know. It's like, what a horrible way to live. I'm so sorry for you.
Yes,
that's the case for you.
Hopefully
it's not by choice, because then I really don't understand.
Yeah.
But they did what they call groove responses, where they play 50 short pieces of music for people both who were non-anhedonic and had the anhedonia, and basically determining did they still move? And even for the folks that did not have that response, do not derive pleasure from music necessarily, that they still would find themselves doing a little bit of movement to a beat. They would still catch a beat a little bit and get into it, even if it wasn't something they particularly enjoyed.
Yeah.
Which again, I feel like makes sense, because I don't know about it, I don't know that they get too far into the idea of like the people who just like not liking a certain genre.
Yeah.
But sometimes I can listen to a genre of music that I don't necessarily dig and still find beats and rhythms and grooves that I can still find myself like, well, this isn't something I'm going to be listening to a lot.
Or maybe
but
understand.
I can still appreciate the beat of it. Yeah.
Like maybe you don't even understand what they're saying, or it could be in a foreign language.
That's a great point.
And I don't know what they're saying, but I still like the groove, and you find yourself bopping or whatnot. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'll add a little caveat to this. You will also be proud of me to know that my TikTok, for some reason, my algorithm in TikTok has decided that I'm a drum guy into drums, because I guess I've just stopped and watched enough drumming videos. Yes. Or maybe it's my phone was listening to you and Marco talk about drumming all the time.
Maybe that too.
But I find myself recently coming across a bunch of people doing like cool little drum stuff. Like there was one I stopped and was mesmerized by this girl who was doing just the opening drum beat to one of Queens of the Stone Age's songs. Not No One Knows. That's the popular one. It was I can't remember the name of it. A Song for the Dead.
Okay.
And there's a really great little drum beat that starts that off. And I was like, yeah. I kind of understand why drums are cool like this. Because when you listen to it diegetically with other music, sometimes you don't appreciate the drum aspect.
That's right, yeah.
But when you watch someone...
It's part of the rhythm section.
When you watch someone doing it...
Yes.
And I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but when you watch someone doing it, realize how complex and what they're layering in with the rest of the music, and what you're missing if the drum part wasn't there. It's pretty cool to see. So.
Yeah, well, what's been showing up in my algorithm, again, I'm not on TikTok, but anyway, are like, guess this song, and it's just
like a snippet.
It's the
like
opening drum riff.
Yeah,
I love those. I love those. It's like, I'm usually really good at them, but then it'll say, this one's extremely hard, and I never get those. Like, damn it, what is that song? Then it'll bug me all day long.
I need to go back, because there was that game that they had, like an online game, I think it's still out there, where you could listen to snippet of it, like 10 seconds of a song.
It was the music version.
That was it.
Hurdle.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
HEARDLE. Yeah. So you go back and check that out.
There you go.
All right, that's what's on our radar. That's what tech we're biting on.
Yes.
I didn't change the name. I know we're not the TEConnect Podcast, but TEC Bytes is such a cool name. I had to hold on to that. I couldn't think of anything better, so I stuck with that. So please send your ideas into this, if any stuff you want to talk about. It is time for us to unplug for the day. Yeah, I'm throwing back to that tagline too, because why not?
Why not?
So until next time, folks, we'll see you out there.